Hi guys, Jenna here. If back pain is getting in the way of your yoga practice or even just your everyday life, this video will teach you 7 yoga stretches and poses that will help give you a little bit of relief. While back pain can be caused by so many different things like injury, poor posture, repetitive motion, or even just getting older, we shouldn't have to accept it. These are some of my favorite poses to alleviate pain and help get me back to my everyday life. I hope they work for you too. We recommend holding each pose for a few breaths, but you can hold or do these poses at your own pace. Just pause your video at any point while watching to hold the stretch for a little bit longer. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the little bell to get notifications. You'll get great tips and helpful videos just like this one from an athletic yoga business every Monday morning to start your week off right. Child's pose is a gentle yet effective pose for relieving low back pain. This pose lengthens and stretches the spine while also relieving tension in the neck and shoulders. By elongating and aligning the spine, this will help to decompress and give you a nice stretch. So for child's pose, you'll begin coming into tabletop position, bringing your wrists directly under your shoulders and your knees under your hips. From here, you'll bring your big toes together behind you, separate your knees about mat width distance, and slowly sink the weight back to your heels, starting to inch your fingertips down your mat. You'll settle into your stretch, really sinking the weight back through your glutes, into your heels, relieving the pain through your lower back and really feeling that stretch. You can also start to inch your fingertips forward down your mat to add in an active shoulder stretch, or you can bring your arms back by your sides, really focusing on the restorative aspect of this pose, but also releasing the pain through the low back here. And then you'll slowly start to round up to release from the pose, letting your head come all the way up last, and gently release. Upward facing dog creates a nice curve in the lower back while also engaging your abdominal muscles, which is helpful for supporting the lower back. For upward facing dog, you'll begin in a plank position. So placing your hands on the mat under your wrists, extending through your legs, coming into a perfect plank. From here, you'll start to lower yourself down, keeping your elbows in tight to your body, and then sweep all the way through for up dog. Holding here, ideally you'll want your knees and hips lifted off the mat, gazing either straight ahead or a little bit forward to really elongate through the spine and lengthen the entire thing. If this is a little bit too stressful on the low back, you're also welcome to modify by dropping your knees and hips to the mat, just holding here in a little bit more of a simplistic aspect of this pose, still keeping the spine nice and lengthened, looking all the way up, pressing the palms firmly into the mat, really lengthening through the chest and shoulders as well, relieving the pressure on the low back. Downward facing dog is one of my favorites. It helps to lengthen the spine and strengthen the spine at the same time. It's also a great stretch for the hamstrings, which can often be a cause of back pain. You can bend the knees to make the stretch a little bit more comfortable if you're still working on your flexibility. You'll begin in tabletop position, bringing your wrists under your shoulders, knees under your hips, curl your toes under and press all the way back into the pose. You can hold here. The goal is to eventually work your heels down closer to the mat to feel a deep stretch through the hamstrings. If you're still working on your flexibility, you can take a slight bend at the knees and lift your heels up a little bit. You can also start to pedal your heels up and down, right, left, just really feeling those hamstrings loosen up. This will eventually lead to less stress on the low back. You'll eventually feel your lower back start to release any tension that you're holding. You'll press your chest towards your thighs, feeling a deep stretch through your shoulders, keeping your neck relaxed, not creating any additional tension in the neck or head, just casually gazing back towards your toes. Holding here for as many breaths as you'd like, really letting your hamstrings loosen up in this pose, and then gently release, coming down to your knees and rounding up with your head coming up last. Bridge is a great symmetrical pose that not only helps release the low back and ease back pain, but also stretches and opens the chest, thighs, and hip flexors. In this pose, you'll lengthen the spine from the top to bottom for a deep yet gentle stretch. You'll begin on the floor lying in Shavasana, and then you'll bend up at your knees, bringing your heels as close to your glutes as you can, keeping your knees and feet hip width distance apart. Bringing your arms by your sides, press your palms and feet firmly into the mat, and then inhale as you lift your hips up towards the ceiling. You'll settle in holding here in this pose, making sure to actively lift your hips up towards the ceiling the entire time, really feeling that release through your spine and release of tension in the low back, continuing to lift up, keeping your quads engaged, your glutes engaged, activating every muscle in this pose, while still pressing through your hips, relieving the pain through your back. Keeping your eyes open, focusing on your breath, and then exhale as you slowly lower down and release all the way back into Shavasana. Reclining spine twist is a great pose for relieving back pain. Twists help to relieve the pressure in the low back and encourage spinal range of motion. Try to keep your hips and knees in line with each other as you draw them towards the floor. So you'll begin lying on your mat in Shavasana. You'll bend up at both knees, bringing your knees in tight to your chest. And then you'll slowly lower your knees all the way down to the left side, keeping your knees and hips in line, extending out through your arms and eventually gazing past your right fingertips. It's okay if your right shoulder doesn't touch the mat. Really focusing on keeping your knees pressed firmly together in line with your hips and keeping your chest open towards the ceiling as much as possible. And then slowly coming back to center, making sure to do the stretch on both sides of your body, so then bringing your knees all the way down to the right side of your mat, gazing past your left fingertips. Again, keeping your hips and knees in line with one another, pressing them in towards the floor, keeping your chest open towards the ceiling, really relieving the tension in the low back. And gently release, extending both legs out in front of you, lying into Shavasana. Standing forward fold is a great stretch if you're on the go or need a quick stretch midday. It stretches out the backs of the legs and lengthens the spine, both of which will help relieve pain and tension in the lower back. Just make sure to keep your glutes pressed out so that the bend comes from the hips and not from the back. You'll begin by bringing your feet together, letting your toes and ankles touch, and inhale your arms all the way up overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Ideally, the goal of this pose is to bring your fingertips down to the mat. If you're working on your flexibility in your hamstrings, you can take a slight bend at the knees so that your fingertips can reach. Or you can always place a block beneath your fingertips to give a little bit of extra space for your hands to reach for. In this pose, you can do a couple different variations. You can reach for opposite elbows and just let your upper body rock from side to side. This will start to relieve the tension through your low back and start to loosen up your hamstrings. Once you're feeling a little bit looser, you can take your hands to the outsides of your ankles or your calf muscles. And inhale, lengthen up through your spine, and exhale, start to fold forward a little bit further. Feeling a deeper stretch through the hamstrings, just letting your neck and head relax and fall forward. And you'll gently release, slowly rounding up, one vertebrae at a time with your head coming up last, releasing your arms to your sides. Cat and cow poses are two more of my personal favorites. These poses allow for the extension of the spine, which promotes mobility and relieves tension in the low back. These two poses are also great for allowing you to find your neutral spine, which will help lead to better overall posture and help avoid back pain in the future. You'll begin in tabletop position, bringing your wrists directly under your shoulders and your knees directly under your hips. From here, you'll inhale as you lift up, chest up, chin up, dropping your belly down towards the mat for cow pose. And then on your exhale, rounding through the spine, really feeling that stretch from top to bottom, alleviating any pain through the back. And inhale for cow, looking up towards the ceiling, dropping the belly to the mat. And exhale, rounding through the spine for cat, really pressing your palms and knees firmly into the mat to feel the deep stretch through the entire spine. Last one, inhale for cow. And exhale, rounding through the spine for cat, feeling a deep stretch. And gently release, slowly rounding up, coming to a seated position. I got all my energy, I got all my energy, I got all my...
Let's go.
While back pain can be caused by you want me to start over?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know you were going to say action. The longer you hold the pose, the easier to... Let me try again. Symmetry is the same. Symmetry similar.
What does symmetrical mean?
Symmetrical means made up of exactly similar parts facing each other. Showing symmetry.
It's going to be good on camera.
I'm smart.